To be woman and black is to be born knowing your beauty does not belong to you.
Is to be the first and last person to love yourself.
Is to know you're not desirable to your own kind.
I grew up learning how to protect men who hate me.
I want an educated woman. I'm not talking book smart. I'm talking sheet smart. A woman who understands the actual purpose of her mouth. To be black and woman and alive is to be resilient. My very existence is defiance.
Next thing you're a Christian, a Muslim, sleeping with the gin. Now that was the sin that did Jezebel in. Who you gonna tell when the repercussions spin? Showing off your thinking it's a trend, girlfriend. Let me break it down for you again. You know I only say it cause I'm truly genuine. Don't be a hard rock when you really are a gem, baby girl. Respect is just the minimum.
Sexuality, black women, no clothes. The concept became they were loose, lewd, and overtly sexual.
The Jezebel stereotype stems from the biblical story of the Phoenician queen named Jezebel, who was a alluring type of witch and used her seduction to get what she wanted.
When European settlers were traveling the world and they were going to the continent of Africa and they encountered blacks in the various countries, because they were not fully dressed or what would be considered scantily clad, they were not ashamed of their bodies. This was a direct contrast to European cultures that were used to hiding their sexuality or dressing their bodies mainly because of climate. And so because Africans or people of the black race were already a part of the lower rung of this ethnic hierarchy that merchants and colonists and settlers had created in order to have a system of supremacy, they attached that to the negative aspect of being black.
Approximately 12.5 million Africans were brought into the New World by ships during the institution of slavery. Many worked on the fields or in their master's house, while others, particularly black women, were placed in sex markets.
There are a number of reasons that stereotypes were derived in order to justify the treatment of Africans who were brought to this country as slaves. One of the treatments that was falling upon black women was sexual assault, rape, those kinds of things. And because they did not want to identify or adapt those characteristics with white culture to say that white men were sexually assaulting or raping black women. The idea was that black women were one of the lascivious ones, the overtly sexual ones, who were actually kind of sexually predatory when it came to white men, and they preferred to be with white men. So all of this was a way to divert the reality, the psychological reality that black women were being sexually assaulted, sold as sex slaves, etc.
During the Jim Crow era, the depiction of black women as mammies paraded through American culture. The mammy stereotype was seen as a heavyset black woman who took care of the household and was undesirable to white males. Although the mammy stereotype was a dominant image for black women, the Jezebel soon emerged to overshadow the mammy.
Listen, Mammy, there ain't nowhere to wash clothes. What you all need is rhythm.
What do you all mean, rhythm?
I'll show you what I mean. In Harlem, there's a little place where everyone goes to see the way a washerwoman washes her clothes.
In the 20th century, when you start seeing the different types of technology emerge, the visual images and the moving images through movies and later on television, and the basic premise there is, since the mammy figure and the Jezebel figure were already used in advertisement and a part of popular culture, now they're being used during a time where people can see them and they're moving, and the idea is to attract people to your medium, get people to the movies, get people to buy your products, and sex sells. The same thing exists today, sex sells.
Cinematic black Jezebels debuted their way to the big screens. By the 1970s, film welcomed in the blaxploitation period.
One of the main celebrities in that era was Pam Grier. So, you know, she was Foxy Brown, and so she's this tall, light-skinned, voluptuous woman who is powerful, but she's working on the side of good, but she's using her sexuality to attain her goals. So the idea that that era was called blaxploitation, which is a phrase that's derived from the exploitation of blackness, is very interesting because it is a conflicted era as it relates to black identity, because you have this time where they're trying to insert stronger characters in the media to say that black men are strong, they are masculine, black women are alluring, they're powerful, but unfortunately it's tied to violence, and which goes back to the slave stereotype of the group associated with the black man, and it's tied to that alluring or gross sexuality of the Jezebel, which again goes right back to slavery.
So heavy. In the exploitation, there's also a freedom, because at some point in time you have to walk with it and you have to go through your journey to figure out where you sit, where you stand up in your sexuality, in your power, in your potential. And what I learned is just that. I was able to liberate myself through my sexuality, through my oppression of not knowing, through the many trials and obstacles I went through with men, with relationships, with sex, period. After a while, I had to start realizing that the choices that I made and the choices that I was making were mine. So either I'm going to allow someone to inflict this power on me, or I'm going to take it back and keep it as mine. A lot of times men use women for sex, and it can be just the other way around, you know. So it's about releasing and giving up power and going back and forth with really understanding where your power lies. So, liberation.
Watch this.
And American culture is not, even still, it's not our culture. Who we are as a people, our culture is so rich, they don't even acknowledge it. So who are they to say what it is that we should stereotype ourselves as? How about you get down and figure out who your people really are? I bet you if you looked at a couple of tribes in Africa, just on some GP, you realize they don't even wear bras. But men don't be over-sexualized by seeing that. They see her breast as nurturement. That's how they feed the village. You know what I'm saying? They see her hips as the things that allow her to summon those spirits when she's in dance to heal the whole village. So why can't we go back to that?
Today, the image of African American women are still viewed as sexual commodities through music videos, television shows, advertisements, and much more.
We can overcome these negative stereotypes by not accepting this crap and stop perpetuating it. The fact that it's not a coincidence that the raunchy, loud, overtly sexual black woman on television or in the movies are the ones that have the money, the perceived power. That is because the mainstream society wants people to think that the only way that African Americans can advance or rise in this society is to use the only power that they have, which is their sexuality. That's their only commodity. And it's a bogus claim that unfortunately too many black people have accepted.
A lot of times it's just for a check. Like I said, we're going back to women knowing that for sure this body is worth something. The media is self-inflicted. We did it. The media ain't do nothing but gave us the gun. We shot.